Welcome to part 3 of the discussion video on accounting for partnership liquidation. So last time we ended on illustrating some items uh, related to the computation of the capital balances, the allocation of the losses. So let us look now at illustration 3.2, which is the reconstruction of information. So there are missing data which you need to squeeze back to be able to compute for those items. So let us look. On January 1, 20x1, A and B liquidated their partnership. The capital balances were A, 100,000 and B, 200,000. Ang kanilang profit and loss ratio is 60 and 40. Before liquidation, the partnership had 20,000 cash and 30,000 liabilities. The partnership incurred loss of 120,000 on the sale of the non-cash asset. A is solvent but B is insolvent. So, ibig sabihin, kapag nag-negative ang capital balances, si B wala na siyang capacity to bring in additional contribution to the partnership. In effect, isa-shoulder na yun ni A. So, uh, the requirements are 1. How much was the carrying amount of the non-cash assets? B. How much was the net proceeds from the sale of the non-cash assets? And C. How much did A and B receive from the settlement of their interest? So let us first analyze with requirement A. How much was the carrying amount of the non-cash assets? So if you go back to the simple steps we have identified, step one is the computation of the net cash proceeds. Next, the allocation of loss, and then the second is the computation of the loss or the gain, and then step 3 is the allocation of the loss. So dun tayo sa step 1 because what is as is the carrying amount of the non-cash assets. So step 1 and 2 ang gagamitin natin dito. If you look at the information, ang sabi dito is the partnership incurred loss of 120,000. So na-identify na natin yung loss, binigay na siya kaagad sa problem. So, we have to reconstruct the information. Dahil binigay sa atin yung loss, kailangan nating paano ba nako-compute yung loss? Loss is computed when we compare the net cash proceeds and the carrying amount of the assets. So, let us take a look at the solution. The loss on the sale is 120,000 given na ito. So dito tayo magsisimula. The carrying amount of the assets, is it given? The carrying amount of the assets based on the data is not given, but it can be computed using the basic accounting equation. Kaya nga tinuro sa iyo yon on the previous cases and illustrations. So let us look at the basic accounting equation. Assets is equal to liabilities plus equity. Your assets should be segregated as cash and non-cash assets. Yung cash mo, in-identify ba dito? Sabi, before liquidation, the partnership had 20,000 cash. So, ito po yun, 20,000. The other assets is not. So, ito yung hinahanap natin, yung carrying amount. The liabilities, 30,000. The partner's capital is 300,000. So, 300 plus 30 is 330,000 minus 20,000 para makuha natin yung non-cash asset is 310,000. So, therefore, the carrying amount of the non-cash assets is 310,000. So, that is the answer for requirement A, 310,000. Okay, for requirement B, how much was the net proceeds from the sale of the non-cash assets? So, kung na-identify mo na yung carrying amount, then binigay sa iyo yung loss. Therefore, 310,000 minus 120,000, you squeeze it back, you will get 190,000 as the net proceeds. Kumbaga, yun lang yung napagbentahan. Ang carrying amount ng non-cash assets ay 310, ang napagbentahan 190, kaya nga may loss na 120,000. Okay, let's proceed with item C. How much did A and B receive from the settlement of their interest? So, doon na tayo sa step 3, which is the allocation. So, the capital balances, i-plot mo muna. For A is 100,000, for B 200,000. Magkano ang loss? 120,000. Multiply it with the profit and loss ratio, 40%. 60 and 40%. So, the amounts to be received by the partners, A is 28,000. That is computed as 100,000 minus 72,000 shares sa loss. So, 28,000. Sa kay B naman, 200,000 minus 48,000 share in the loss is equal to 152,000. So, the answer for C is 28,000 for A and 152,000 for B. You can check it using the uh, the template we already discussed. Okay, let's proceed with other illustration 3.3. This is still reconstruction of information because in the CPA board exam, more of problems requiring you to reconstruct information are given rather than there are simple problems which requires computation of capital balances and the amounts of settlement to the partners, but uh, you have to prepare more of how to reconstruct information relative to this. So A and B liquidated their partnership. Before liquidation, the partnership had total assets of 500,000 and capital balances for A 300,000 and B 150,000. Non-cash assets were sold 300,000 and on the final settlement, A received 192,000. The requirements are how much was the total loss on the sale of the assets, how much did B receive in the settlement of the capital balance, how much were the total liabilities of the partnership, and how much was the balance of the cash before the sale of the non-cash assets. So let us focus now on requirement A. How much was the loss on the sale of the partnership assets? So how do we compute for the loss? We compare net cash proceeds and the carrying amount. So look at the given information. So meron kang total assets dyan, 500,000. However, itong total asset, it can be cash and non-cash. So, i-investigate mo muna kasi hindi mo pwedeng kuhanin agad yung 500,000. The capital balance, okay. The non-cash assets ay nabenta daw ng 300,000. Okay. So, the non-cash asset, so, given na ang net cash proceeds na 300,000. Ang hindi given is the carrying amount of the asset. So, paano natin? Tingnan mo pa yung ibang data. On the final settlement, A received 192,000. So, let us analyze this using yung ginagawa nating table when we allocate the losses. We use this pro forma distribution table. So, the capital balances, bago tayo mag-liquidate, ay 300,000 and 150,000 for A and B. Ang total niyan, 450,000. Diba? We allocate the losses whenever there are losses. In this case, identified na ba natin kung magkano ang losses? Hindi pa. Dahil ang binigay pa lang sa'yo is yung net cash proceeds. Hindi mo alam yung carrying amount. However, mayroong sinabi dito that on the final settlement, A received 192. So, binigyan ka ng amounts received ni A, 192. So, therefore, you have to reconstruct the information for you to get the total amount of the loss. So, kung 192,000 ang naibigay kay A, pero ang kanyang beginning capital balance ay 300,000, therefore, ang na-allocate na loss sa kanya, proceed to step number 2, ay 108,000. So, 300 minus 108 is 192,000. So, dahil alam mo na kung magkano ang inallocate na loss kay A na 108,000, it is easy for you to compute for the total loss on the partnership assets. Why? 108,000 is 60% of the total loss. So 108,000 divided by 60% is 180,000. So the answer for item A is 180,000. This is the total loss on the sale of the partnership assets. Okay. So, na-compute mo na yung total loss. Okay. Item B. How much did B receive in the settlement of his capital balance? So, magkano daw ang na-receive ni B sa kanyang capital balance? Okay. Nalaman mo na yung total, 180,000 yung loss. So, 40% noon ay a portion kay B. So, 180,000 times 40% is 72,000. Ang kanyang beginning balance ay 150. So, 150 minus 72 is 78,000. So, that is the amount B received in settlement of his capital balance. Okay? 78,000 for item B. So, item C tayo. How much were the total liabilities of the partnership? Okay, you have to use the basic accounting equation for you to analyze this kasi you are reconstructing the information. So, let us look at the solution. The assets is equal to liabilities plus the capital. How much is the total assets? Based on the given information, it is 500,000. How much is the capital? 300,000 for A and then 150,000 for B. So, magkano daw yung total liabilities ng partnership? It is easy for you to compute. 500 minus 300 minus 150 is 50,000. This is your total liabilities. So, kung titingnan mo, parang kapag tinatanong siya, parang ang complex. Pero yung solution mo for this item should be simple and basic. D. How much was the balance of cash before the sale of the non-cash assets? How much was the balance of cash before the sale? Okay. Bago magbenta ng non-cash items, magkano daw ba yung balance ng cash? So, kumbaga, ang tinatanong niya dito is yung portion ng beginning balance of cash. Okay. You have to first analyze this kasi based on the given information, saan ka dapat magsimula dyan. Diba, when we are please look at step 3. Diba, based on step 3, the amounts received by A is 192 and B 78,000. Total of 270,000. So, kumbaga, ito yung amount na naibigay kay A at B at ito yung amount na available for distribution kay A at B. So therefore, dun ka mag-start sa cash available for distribution to the partners na 270,000. So use the template illustration to work on this. So since 270,000 ang iyong cash available for distribution to the partners as computed under step 3, you have to add back yung dating binabawas mong payment to outside creditors, 'di ba? Nagbabawas ka diyan whether it is paid or not, yung 50,000 na liability. Sir, saan po nakuha yung 50,000? Wala po yan sa required information, that is on item C, yung liabilities, yung 50,000. So, this is the payment to outside creditors. So, 270, add back mo yung 50,000. Then, the net cash proceeds from the sale of non-cash assets na 300,000. Ito ay given. So, 270 plus 50,000 minus the net cash proceeds na 300,000 will give you the squeeze item 20,000, the beginning balance of cash. Kumbaga, when you analyze this, yung napagbentahan ng non-cash assets ay 300,000. Tapos yung binayad sa liabilities ay 50,000. So, 250,000. 300 minus 50,000 is 250,000. Yung total na perang meron ka. Ang dinistribute mo sa partners ay 270. So, therefore, it is conclusive na yung 20 ayun yung beginning balance ng cash mo. Okay? Okay. Kung medyo naguguluhan ka pa, I think you have to go back or to repeat our discussions relative to this. Okay. So, for those who already have catch up with the discussion, let's proceed with illustration 3.4. This is still reconstruction of information. So, binibigyan ka ng every possible items or scenarios on where the information is missing. So A and B with P&L ratio na 60-40 liquidated their partnership. After all, the non-cash assets were sold for 190 and all the 30,000 liabilities were settled. The partners had 180,000 to distribute among themselves. So ibig sabihin, 180,000 ang cash available for distribution. Tama? When we say the partners had 180 to distribute among themselves, it is the cash available for distribution to the partners. So A received 28,000 in the settlement of his 100,000 capital balance. So binigay yung total settlement kay A, then binigay din ang kanyang beginning balance. So the requirements are: how much were the total assets before liquidation? How much was the capital balance of B before liquidation? And how much did B receive in the final settlement? So let's focus on item A. How much were the total assets before the liquidation? Okay, ang binigay ng mga items is the non-cash assets ay nabenta ng 190. Okay, this is the net cash proceeds. So hindi ito yung carrying amount. All the 30,000 liabilities were settled. Okay. Partners ay 180. Okay. Ang alam mong mga data if you will be using the accounting equation, yung assets plus is equal to liabilities plus capital, ang alam mong data is yung total asset, hindi mo pa alam kasi walang binigay na data related to carrying amount. Yung liabilities, meron bang binigay? Meron. Yung 30,000 na liabilities. This is the liabilities. Then sa capital, may data ka ba related to capital? The partners had 100 to distribute, AC. Yes, pero partial lang. Yung kay A lang ang meron ka. Yung beginning balance ni A, 100,000. So, let us look at step 1. So, sa asset, wala kang data. Liabilities, 30. Capital, 100,000. Pero, based on the data, yung diniscuss ko kanina, itong 180,000, this is the cash available for distribution to the partners. So, ibig sabihin, ito na yung final figure. So, let us work on that. Let us start using the data 180,000 to squeeze items. So, cash available for distribution, 180,000. Magkano yung liabilities? 30,000. So, i-add back mo yan. 180 plus 30,000. Magkano yung proceeds on the sale of the non-cash assets? 190,000. So, 190 minus mo yan. Then, the beginning balance of cash is 20,000. So, same procedure na ginawa natin dito sa illustration 3.3. Yan. So, therefore, now, meron ka ng squeeze item for cash. So, meron ka ng 20,000. So, let's proceed more. Okay. Tama ba? Step 1 is step 2. So, meron ka ng squeeze item, 20,000. Ang tinatanong is the total assets before liquidation. So, may cash ka na dyan. Okay. Balik nga ulit tayo. Magkano yung settlement daw ni A? 28,000. Okay. Since alam mo na yung cash item mo na 20,000, hindi mo pa makompute, ang kailangan mo namang hanapin ngayon is the non-cash item. Based on the data, yung non-cash item ay nabenta ng 190,000 pero yung carrying amount, hindi pa natin ma-identify kasi hindi mo pa alam yung B capital at hindi mo pa rin alam itong non-cash carrying amount. So, how do we analyze using the given information? So, let us work on by looking at the beginning balance of A na 100,000 at saka 28,000 yung kanyang natanggap. Ibig sabihin, yung loss niya ay 72,000. So, paano na-compute? 100,000 ang balance ni A, yung beginning. Ang na-receive niya, 28,000. So, therefore, 100,000 minus 28,000, ang loss sa kanya, kaya naging 28 na lang ang settlement sa kanya is because na shoulder niya yung loss na 72,000 because of the sale of the non-cash assets. So 72,000, that is 60% of the total loss. So 72,000 divided by 60% is 120,000. So that is the total loss. Ano ba ang tinatanong for item A? The total asset. Okay. Dahil alam mo na yung total loss mo na 120,000, paano ba nakukompute yung loss? The net cash proceeds versus the carrying amount. The net cash proceeds, alam mo na ba yung net cash proceeds? Yes. Yun po yung 190,000. So 190,000 ang napagbentahan, ang loss ay 120. So therefore, 190 plus 120 is the carrying amount of the assets. So 310,000. So squeeze mo yan. I-squeeze mo. You have to reconstruct the information. So if you analyze, the carrying amount ng non-cash assets ay 310. Nabenta lang siya ng 190,000. So therefore, may loss on sale na 120. So what is as in item A? How much were the total assets before liquidation? Total assets. The total assets comprise of the cash and the non-cash items. Yung cash mo ay 20,000, na-compute natin kanina yan at step 2. 20,000 plus yung na-compute mo ngayon na 310,000 na carrying amount ng non-cash assets. Therefore, your answer for item A is 330,000. Okay. Item B, how much was the capital balance of B before the liquidation? Capital balance daw ni B before liquidation. Okay. So ito, pabalik naman. Ang tinatanong is yung capital balance ni B bago yung allocation of losses. Okay. Before the allocation of the losses. So since 120,000 ang na-compute natin na total loss, 40% ng loss ay para kay P. So, 48,000. Ang a portion kay B, 48,000. Alam ba natin kung magkano ang beginning balance ni B? The beginning balance of B is not given. Pero working on the equation, yung cash at non-cash, ang total nito ay 330, di ba? 330 minus 30 minus 100 is 200,000. Therefore, 200,000 ang beginning balance ni B. So, working on that, you can already answer item B, 200,000. So, there are alternative solutions on how you can compute. Please refer to this presentation. You can get a screenshot of this to identify the other alternative solutions. I will not be discussing because it is just a reiteration of the items. So, pwede kasing gamitin mo yung cash available to partners. You compute it with the amount received by the partners. You will get the same answer, 152 for the amount received by B. Tama ba? Ito ba yung tinatanong? How much? No. For item B, ang tinatanong is the capital balance of B before liquidation. The answer is 200,000. For item C, yung natanggap niya in the final settlement. So, kung 200,000 minus the allocated loss, 48,000, 152,000 ang allocated, the amounts to be received by partner B. So, there are alternative solutions in computing for the items. So, you just have to refer to that. Okay, let's look at illustration 4.1, which is a discussion on the drawings account. The drawings account are the temporary contra account to the capital accounts of the partners. The drawings account have a normal debit balance. So ito ay at the end of the period, the drawings account will be deducted from the capital balances of the partners. So this is a reduction on the capital balances. So on January 1, the company decided to liquidate the partnership on installment basis. So the distributions to the partners will be made as cash becomes available. So you are given the following information related to the accounts of the partnership. So during January, the non-cash assets with carrying amount of 130,000 were sold for 60,000. Disposal costs 20,000 were incurred. All of the partners are personally insolvent. So insolvent, ibig sabihin, the partners have no capacity to bring in additional contribution once their capital balances become deficient. So the requirement is to compute for the distributions to the partners in January. So let us first look at the items. So may cash, AR, receivable from C, inventory, equipment, accounts payable to B. So this, when you implement the right of offset, priority natin yan, yung mga receivable from C and payable to B na yan. So A capital, drawings, B capital. Okay. Sir, I have a question back. Sabi niyo po, yung drawings account has a normal debit balance. But what happens to the drawings account of C? So this is, so i-check mo nga kung tama ba yan na 530. I guess tama yan. 20 plus 60 plus 10 plus 120 plus 300 plus 20 is 530. 30 plus 20 plus 100 plus 150 plus 100 plus 30 is 530. So, tama yung balances. So, walang error on the plotting of the information. So, for this item, what does a credit balance on the drawings account imply? So, ibig sabihin, it is an addition on the capital of C. So, kapag naka-debit, it is a reduction on the capital of C. Okay, let's analyze this. So what is the requirement muna? Compute for the distributions to the partners. So how can we distribute? We follow the simple steps. 1, compute for the net cash proceeds if there is. 2, we allocate the gain or the loss, and then second, we compute for the loss or the gain, and then third, we allocate for the gain or the loss. So let us first analyze kung saan ba manggagaling yung items of loss. So during January, the non-cash assets with carrying amount na 130, so ito yung carrying amount na niya given. Nabenta siya ng 60,000. So kung nabenta siya ng 60,000, this is the cash proceeds. Disposal cost of 20,000 were incurred. Ibig sabihin na itong disposal cost, this is related to the disposal of the non-cash assets. So you should deduct it with the 60,000. So 60,000 minus 20,000 is 40,000. This is the net cash proceeds. So yung 130 na asset, na non-cash asset ay nabenta at a net cash proceed na 40,000. So 130 minus 40,000 is 90,000. Yun ay loss on sale of the non-cash assets. Okay. Okay. No, hindi lang siya pala carrying amount na 130 because we have to remember that the non-cash assets, whether when you are under installment liquidation, whether the assets are sold or not, it is considered as sold, as it is considered, when it is not sold, it is considered as a loss. So ano ba yung mga non-cash assets dyan? Accounts receivable, inventory, and then equipment. So 60 plus 120 plus 300,000 is 480,000. Sir, hindi po ba isasama yung receivable from C? No, because of the right of offset. 60, 120, 300. Ito yung total carrying amount. Ang gagamitin mong carrying amount is 480 and not 130 because kung babalikan mo yung previous discussion natin, the non-cash assets, whether it is sold or not, is considered as a loss when there is disposal or there is selling, when there is realization of the non-cash assets. So therefore, based on the solution, the sale of the non-cash assets, 60 minus 20, 40. Ito yung na-compute nating net cash proceeds. The carrying amount is 480. So magkano ang total loss mo? 440,000. So this is the loss. Step 3 na tayo, the allocation of the losses with the right of offset. So the beginning balances 100, 150, and 200,000. So ang drawings accounts for A, 20,000 minus natin yan. And since may credit balance yung kay C, i-add po natin yon. Okay? The receivable from C, write-off offset. Okay, kay C, receivable from C, ibig sabihin, receivable ni partnership. Matatanggap ni partnership from C, so ibawas natin sa kanyang capital. Ito namang payable to B, utang ng partnership kay B, so i-add po natin. So therefore, the total capital balances before we allocate the losses is 80,000 for A, 170,000 for B, and 220,000 for C. Total of 470,000. Now let's allocate the loss of 440,000 by 440,000, multiply it with the profit and loss ratio na 20, 30, and 50%. So, yan po yung ating losses. So, after allocating the losses, the total for A is negative 8,000, for B, positive 38,000, and for C, 0. Okay, anong gagawin dito sa negative? So let us look back at the information regarding the solvency of the partner. Sabi dito, all of the partners are personally insolvent. So when it is said that all the partners are personally insolvent, ibig sabihin, kung mangyaring mag-negative ang kanilang capital balances, there is no capacity for the partners to bring in additional contribution. Okay. Ibig sabihin, si A, insolvent siya, hindi niya kaya, isi-shoulder siya ni B at C dapat. However, based on this problem, si C ay wala na siyang balance on the capital balance. Therefore, dahil insolvent din naman siya, isi-shoulder na siya lahat ni B. So, yung buong 8,000 will be shouldered by B. Kaya nga siya binawas lahat kay B. So, the payment to the partners, 0 for A, for B, 30,000, and for C, 0. So, what is the requirement ba on this? Compute for the distribution to the partners. So, the answer is 0 for A, 30,000 for B, and C, 0. Okay, you can check that. Let's proceed with illustration 4.2. Still, with the drawings account, A and B liquidated the partnership. Their capital balances before closing the books were 100 and 150,000. The P&L ratio is 2:3. Each partner acts as an agent of the partnership. Before closing the books, the partners had the following transactions on behalf of the partnership. So, binigyan ka ng cash receipts, cash disbursements for A and B, being the agents of the partnership. So, all assets were sold, and after settlement of liabilities, 120,000 cash is available for distribution to the partners. Both partners are personally insolvent, okay? Requirements is to compute for the cash contributions to the partner. So before we compute for the cash distributions rather, to the partners, let us analyze itong ibinigay na cash receipts and cash disbursements. Sir, para saan ba itong binibigay na details on cash receipts and disbursements? Remember, in partnership, di ba, the partners are agents of the partnership. So, ibig sabihin, pwede silang tumanggap based on this illustration, pwede silang tumanggap ng mga bayad at pwede rin silang maglabas ng pera on their own. Kumbaga, these are temporary when they act as agents of the partnership. So, there are transactions which requires them to receive cash and to disburse cash. So, binigyan ka lang ng details. Sir, ano pong gagawin dyan? You have to analyze whether there is, what is the net effect. Is it an excess receipt or is it an excess disbursement? So, based on the illustration, si A, meron siyang mas mataas yung receipts niya. So, excess receipt siya ng 25,000. Si B naman, excess disbursement. Sir, ano ibig sabihin when we say excess receipt? Well, at the point of view of the partnership, when we say excess receipt, ibig sabihin yaan ay receivable ng partnership kay A. So, dapat lahat kasi ng collections na ma-generate ng partners should be remitted to the partnership. So, itong 25,000 ni A should be remitted to the partnership because it is an excess receipt. Yung kay B naman, since it is excess disbursement, it should be reimbursed by the partnership. Ibig sabihin, dapat bayaran ni partnership yun kasi nag-abono si B ng 30,000. So, yan lang po yung logic dyan. Kung medyo nalilito ka, you can go back to our discussion on partnership formation. The discussion video on partnership formation, yung merong T account related to the drawings account. Naka-indicate doon yung temporary receivables and payables may be close to the drawings account of the partners. Okay, having learned that there is a receivable and there is a payable for the partners, let us now use the information on this, yung temporary receivables and payables in adjusting the capital balances of A and B. So ang balances nila 100 and 150,000, ang receivable from A 25,000, ang payable to B 30,000. So since this is a receivable, you have to deduct it to your capital balance. Itong kasing mga temporary receivables and payables, these are additions to the drawings account. Yung receivables are additions to the drawings account while the payables are reductions to the drawings account. So when we adjust the capital balance, 75,000 for A na lang and 180,000 for B. Then now we have to allocate the losses. So kailangan mo munang i-adjust yung capital balances in respect to the temporary receivables and payables before you allocate the losses. Kasi kung hindi mo gagawin yun, mamamali ka ng base figure. Sir, paano po natin makukompute yung losses based on the given data? Okay, tingnan mo itong item na to. Yung all assets were sold and after settlement of liabilities, 120 is cash is available for distribution to the partners. So, kumbaga, diretso sinabi niya na dito na after mabenta ng mga assets ng non-cash at nabayaran yung mga liability, ang natitira na lang na balance ay 120. So, ito na lang yung paghahatian nung partner A at partner B. However, based on our computation of the adjusted capital balances, 255,000 pa dapat ang balance ng cash para maging sufficient or mabayaran lahat yan. So therefore, meron tayong loss dito. Magkano yung loss? 120 minus yung 255. Therefore, ang loss mo dyan ay 135. Diba? I want to reiterate this. 120,000 ang available cash mo. Pero ang dapat mong ibigay sa partners, sa mga partner, ang total 255,000. So saan mo kukunin yung 135? That is a loss. So kailangan mong i-allocate yon. So 135,000, you multiply it with the P&L ratio 2/5 and 3/5 for A and B respectively. So yun po yun, 54 and 81,000. Then, 75 minus 54 is 21,000. Yun na lang ang amounts to be received by A and 99,000 amounts to be received by B. Is this what is required? Compute for the cash distribution to the partners? Yes. The answer is 21,000 and 99,000 for A and B respectively. Okay, let's proceed. I think this is the last item. The non-cash asset used as payment of claim. So what happens now when yung non-cash asset na ang ipangbabayad doon sa capital kasi baka wala ng cash? So let us look at the illustration. So merong partnership ABCD liquidated their partnership business before settling the capital balances. I think this should be read as before settling, bago mag-settle ang dapat may comma siguro ito. Before settling, comma, the capital balances of A is 200, B 150, C 100,000, and D 50,000. The partners agreed on the following. B shall take equipment with carrying amount 100 at the price 120, which is to be offset to his capital balance. The remaining cash of 182 after settlement of the liability shall be divided in a manner that will avoid the need for any possible recovery of cash from a partner. What does this term imply? Yung will avoid the need of any possible recovery of cash from a partner. Ibig sabihin lang nito, the scenario is ayaw na ng partnership na in cases na mag-negative ang capital balances ng bawat partner ay mag-bring in pa ng additional contribution yung partner. So essentially, you are treating the partners as all insolvent. Kumbaga, i-treat mo na insolvent lahat ng partners. Parang ganon. Ganon yung gustong sabihin nung avoid the need for any possible recovery of cash. So kung mag-negative yung capital balances daw, dapat wala ng additional contribution from the partners. So the requirement is how much did C receive in the settlement of the partners' capital accounts. How much did C receive in the settlement of the partners' capital accounts? So let us use the distribution table as our guide in analyzing this transaction. So i-plot mo muna yung capital balances. A, 200,000, B, 150,000, C, 100,000, D, 50,000, total 500,000. Okay. Let us take a look on this and let us first analyze. Okay. You have to allocate for the loss or the gain on this scenario because ang sinabi dito yung capital balances and then si B daw kukunin niya yung equipment at 120,000, then i-offset yun sa kanyang capital balance, then the remaining cash daw after settlement ng liabilities ay 182,000. So how do you analyze this? So let us analyze this by comparing the cash available for distribution and the actual cash or the actual capital balance of the partners. How much is the actual capital balance of the partners? Ito po yun, 500,000. Ito yun. Now, magkano ang available na asset ng company or ng cash ng company? Ang total available, ang sabi dito sa problem is 182 net of liabilities na yon, 182. Okay. 182. However, dapat ito lang ang gagamitin mo kasi yung the cash available will be used in settling the capital balances of the partners. However, there is a provision here, an agreement between the partnership, between the partners, that B will take the equipment. Kaya nga, this problem is yung non-cash asset ang gagamiting pambayad. So therefore, since there is already an agreement, yung 120,000 will be considered as sold at that amount. So 120,000 available yan for distribution to the partner, specifically partner B. So let us take a look at how the loss is computed based on this. Yung cash mo 182,000, ang equipment mo at settlement price ay 120,000. Therefore, meron kang total asset available for distribution to the partners kasi may equipment kaya hindi pwedeng sabihin total cash available for distribution to the partner. It should be the total asset available for distribution to the partners, 302,000. So, ito yung asset na i-distribute mo. Ang equity or capital balance mo ay 500,000. Therefore, based on this, we can analyze that hindi kaya ng total asset na bayaran lahat yung equity. Therefore, there is a loss. 302,000 minus 500,000 is 198,000 loss. So, you allocate 198,000 based on the profit and loss ratios of the partners. So, after allocating, the total adjusted balances is 120,800 for A, 90,600 for B, 60,400 for C, and 30,200 for D. Total of 302,000. Okay. Next. So, since this is the allocated loss, kumbaga the balances after allocating the loss, we will now use the equipment to apply for the balance of B. So, yung si B, kukunin niya yung equipment. Ang settlement nun ay, ang carrying amount nun 100. Pero, ang i-charge, ang settlement price sa kanya ay 120,000. So, 120,000 imawas mo dyan. So, because of this, it will, kung mapapansin mo, ang capital balance na lang ni B ay 90,600. Pero ang kinuha niyang equipment, ang amount 120,000. So, pwede mo bang alisin yung ibang items dun sa equipment para maging 90,600 lang siya? No. So, since there is an agreement between the partners that B will take 120,000, it will have a negative effect on the capital balance of B. Bakit? Kasi nga, 90,000 yung balance lang niya, pero ang binigay mo sa kanya, 120. So, therefore, magkakaroon ng negative balance dyan sa capital ni B. Ang sabi dito, di ba ang sabi kanina, avoid the need for any possible recovery of cash from a partner. So, hindi pwedeng babayaran yan ni B because there is a provision related to this. So, paano gagawin natin dyan? You have to allocate the capital deficiency of B among the remaining partners A, C, and D. So, 29,400, you multiply it with the profit and loss ratio, the new profit and loss ratio. How do you compute? 40% plus 20% plus 10% is 70%. So, yun yung denominator mo. 40 over 70%, 30 over 70%, and then 10 over 70%. Or simply 4 over 7, 2 over 7, and 3 and 1 over 7. So after allocating the deficiency of B, you have to have 104,000 for A, 52,000 for C, and 26,000 for D. Total of 182. So this is your cash, yung cash na 182. Yan yung distribution ng cash mo kay A, C, at D. Kasi si B, 0 na ang ibibigay dyan. Dahil nakuha niya yung equipment na 120,000. So, the question requirement is, how much did C receive in the settlement of the partner's capital accounts? The answer is 52,000. Okay, you have to read this. The phrase shall be divided in a manner that will avoid the need for any possible recovery of cash from a partner. Ito yung diniscuss natin kanina. Means all the partners are insolvent. Thus, B's capital deficiency is absorbed by the other partners. Okay. So, I think that ends the discussion on part 3 of accounting for partnership liquidation. Please continue on the succeeding video, the last video. For more of accounting for partnership liquidation, we will be discussing safe payment schedule and cash priority program. Thank you.